Roommate, Enemies to Lovers by Sasha Clinton. The first thing I notice is the pink suitcase. It is aggressively pink. Not the tasteful blush kind people pretend is neutral. No, this is full commitment. Cotton candy Barbie's dream luggage. The kind of suitcase that announces its arrival before the person attached to it even opens their mouth. It is sitting in the middle of my dorm room. My dorm room. I stop in the doorway, keys still in my hand, and stare at it like it might explode. I am exactly 7 seconds away from violence. This is not how my semester is supposed to start. I earned this single room the hard way. Dean's List, debate championships, one very persuasive meeting with housing where I calmly explain that my academic performance improves dramatically when I am not forced to share oxygen with strangers who think scented candles are a personality trait. They approved it. In writing, with signatures. And yet, pink suitcase in my room. I inhale slowly through my nose, the way my therapist taught me during the brief and extremely expensive period of my life when I pretended I believed in work-life balance. Maybe housing made a mistake. Maybe someone dropped their luggage in the wrong room. Maybe the universe is testing my patience before midterms. I step inside and close the door with deliberate care. The suitcase does not move. Rude. My gaze sweeps the room, cataloging the damage with the efficiency that has made more than one debate opponent visibly nervous. My desk? Untouched. My bed? Still perfectly made. My color-coded bookshelf? Still in alphabetical order because I am a deeply fun person with thriving hobbies. And then, movement. From the bathroom. I go very still. The door swings open, and out walks my problem. She is shorter than me by a few inches, which I notice immediately because my brain enjoys being unhelpful at critical moments. Curvy in a soft, infuriatingly noticeable way, dark hair pulled into a messy bun that looks accidental but is almost certainly strategic. She is wearing an oversized college hoodie and sleep shorts. In my room, using my bathroom, like she pays rent here. She looks up. Our eyes meet, and then she smiles. "Oh," she says brightly, "you must be Tori." I blink once. Slowly, carefully, because violence is illegal on campus, and I have worked very hard on my GPA to throw it away over a human golden retriever with boundary issues. "Yes," I say flatly, "I must." She steps fully into the room like she has never experienced fear in her entire life. Bold, comfortable, entirely too at ease for someone standing 3 feet away from my rapidly thinning patience. "Look," she says plainly, but still annoyingly warm, "this wasn't exactly an Ice Queen suite either." Ice Queen? I blink once. Twice. Oh, she's funny. That's unfortunate, because I am suddenly aware of the way her eyes are watching me like this is entertaining, like I'm entertaining. I cross my arms slowly. "Do you often insult people within 30 seconds of meeting them, or am I special?" Her mouth curves, and I realize, too late, that she has dimples. This is deeply inconvenient. "Only the ones glaring at me like they're considering murder," she says lightly. My lips twitch before I can stop them. I hate that. I really hate that. "I am considering it," I inform her. She leans against the edge of my desk like she has already decided she lives here and plans to redecorate. Bold, reckless, possibly unwell. "Good to know," Riley says. "I'll try to be worth the prison sentence." And there it is. That spark. Sharp. Unexpected, electric enough that something low in my stomach tightens before I can shut it down. Well, that's new and deeply, deeply annoying, because the last thing I need this semester is a problem. And Riley Carter is already looking like the kind that comes with complications. Riley is still leaning against my desk. My desk. Like she doesn't understand that surfaces in this room are organized by a very strict hierarchy of permission and personal space. I watch as she reaches up absently and smooths her thumb over one eyebrow, pushing an invisible hair back into place. The movement is quick, unconscious, comfortable. Too comfortable. You know, she says, glancing around the room again, this is aggressively neat. I don't respond. She steps away from the desk and slowly turns in a circle, taking everything in. Her gaze lingers on my color-coded bookshelf, then my pinned weekly planner, then the perfectly aligned stack of notebooks on my desk. Her mouth twitches. That is a frightening amount of highlighters. I like order. I can tell. She reaches towards my planner. My hand shoots out on instinct, not touching her, but close. Close enough that I feel the heat of her skin. The space between us tightens. Her eyes flick down to where my hand hovers inches from her wrist, then back up to my face. Something shifts in her expression. Not fear, not quite amusement either. Awareness.
Well, she says slowly, that felt territorial. I withdraw my hand like the air just burned me. It's called boundaries. She studies me for a second longer than necessary. Then, deliberately, she tucks a loose strand of dark hair behind her ear. It exposes the soft line of her neck. My brain, traitorous piece of machinery that it is, notices immediately. I look away first. Annoying. Okay, Riley says, pushing off the desk fully now. Let's reset before you file a restraining order. I say nothing. She takes 2 small steps toward me. Not aggressive, not retreating either. Measured. I'm not trying to invade your space, Tori, she says, and her voice is gentler now. Less sunshine, more careful observation. Housing dropped this on me this morning. I walked in here 10 minutes ago. My jaw tightens. Of course she did, because the universe clearly decided I was getting too comfortable this semester. Then you should walk back out, I say. Her lips part, like she's about to snap back something sarcastic. Then she stops, really looks at me. Her head tilts slightly to the side. You're actually stressed about this, she says quietly. It's not a question. I feel my spine go rigid. I prefer my environment predictable. That is the most type A sentence I've ever heard, she murmurs. I glare. She holds up both hands. Not judging, she says quickly, just observing. She shifts her weight from one foot to the other, then absently adjusts the sleeve of her hoodie, tugging it down over her wrist. Nervous energy. Interesting. You always this tightly wound? She asks, softer now. Or did I just win the lottery? Something sharp flickers in my chest. I don't answer immediately, because the truthful response would be, always. Always tightly wound, always 5 steps ahead, always calculating the fallout, always working twice as hard to make sure no one ever gets the chance to look at me and think she doesn't belong here. Instead, I say coolly, I take my academics seriously. Riley watches me for a long moment. Yeah, she says slowly, this feels like more than academics. I cross my arms tighter. You don't know me. True, she tilts her head again, studying my face like I'm a puzzle she's halfway to solving. But I know what burnout looks like. My stomach drops a fraction. I hate that she clocked it. I hate that some small, treacherous part of me feels seen. I am not burned out. The sound is soft, unconvinced, infuriating. Riley steps closer again. Not enough to be in my space, just enough that the air between us feels different, warmer. You sleep? She asks. Yes. She raises one eyebrow. I stare back. She waits. I hold the line. Finally, she huffs a quiet laugh and runs a hand through her messy bun, tugging it tighter. A few loose strands fall anyway, brushing her cheek. Okay, she says, let me rephrase. Do you sleep without stress dreaming about GPA spreadsheets? I do not dignify that with a response, which is apparently response enough. Her expression softens. And I don't like that either. You know, she says quietly, most people don't look like they're preparing for academic war at 6 p.m. Something hot and defensive flares in my chest. You know, I shoot back, most people don't move into someone's room uninvited. Her mouth curves despite herself. Fair? Silence stretches. Riley exhales slowly, then does something unexpected. She steps past me. Not brushing me, but close. Too close. The soft fabric of her hoodie sleeve ghosts the air near my arm. My breath catches before I can stop it. She drops onto the empty desk chair and spins it once, slow and thoughtful. You know what I think? She says. I am certain you're going to tell me. She smiles. Dimples again. This is becoming a recurring problem. I think, Riley says, resting her chin lightly on her fist, I think you didn't just work hard to get this single room. My shoulders go tight. I think, she continues gently, you needed it. The words land quieter than anything she's said so far. And that is what almost cracks something open in my chest. Because she's not wrong. She's not even close to wrong. I needed the silence. I needed the control. I needed one space in my life where nothing could shift under my feet without my permission. Because growing up in a house where everything could change overnight, well, you learn to build systems. You learn to overachieve. You learn very quickly that being the best student in the room means teachers look at your grades instead of your home address. I blink once hard and lock all of that back down where it belongs. Okay, she says lightly. New rule. I don't ask. She continues anyway. We coexist. Minimal annoyance, maximum personal space. I try not to breathe too loudly in your direction. Despite myself, my mouth almost twitches. Almost. And, she adds, pointing at me slightly, you try not to look at me like I personally insulted your ancestors. I lift one eyebrow. I will consider it. She grins. I realize something. Riley Carter is not intimidated by me. Not even a little. And I have a very bad feeling I am going to regret letting her stay.
If there is one thing I have learned in my 21 years of existence, it is this. Peace is temporary. War is inevitable. And Riley Carter apparently wakes up at 6:43 in the morning like she has a personal vendetta against silence. I know the exact time because my eyes snap open the second her alarm goes off, and my brain, which is unfortunately very good at retaining unnecessary data, logs the timestamp with surgical precision. 6:43 a.m. Not even a clean number. Unhinged behavior. The alarm itself is chirpy. Not aggressive, not blaring. Just relentlessly, offensively cheerful, like a tiny digital bird is personally invested in ruining my morning. I lie very still in my bed, staring at the ceiling. The alarm continues, and continues, and continues. My eye twitches. From across the room comes a muffled groan. Riley. She slaps blindly at her phone. Misses. The chirping continues. I sit up slowly. Calmly, with the deeply controlled energy of someone about to commit a felony. Riley, I say evenly. No response. She groans again and burrows deeper under her blanket like that will solve the problem. The chirping grows louder. Oh, absolutely not. I swing my legs off the bed and cross the room in 4 precise steps. Riley is sprawled diagonally across her mattress, hair a dark, chaotic halo around her face, hoodie twisted halfway up her stomach like she lost a fight with gravity in her sleep. She looks... I shut that thought down immediately. Irrelevant. I reach down and pick up her phone. The alarm stops the second I hit dismiss. Blessed silence floods the room. Riley blinks one eye open, then the other. Her gaze focuses slowly on my face. Morning, she mumbles. I cross my arms. It is 6:43. She squints at me. Is that bad? Why, I say with extreme precision, does your alarm not end in a 0 or a 5? Riley stares at me for a long beat. Then, because of course she does, she starts laughing. Actually laughing, soft and scratchy with sleep. You're kidding, she says. I am not kidding. That's your issue right now? It is one of several. She pushes herself up on her elbows, wincing slightly like her body is staging a quiet protest against consciousness. Then she reaches up and rubs one eye with the heel of her hand, smudging sleep from the corner. You know, she says, voice still rough, most people's first roommate complaint is like snoring or stealing food. I have standards. That is deeply concerning. I turn and hand her the phone. She takes it, our fingers brushing briefly. There's that stupid spark again. Quick, sharp, gone too fast to maim properly. I ignore it, professionally. Riley doesn't comment either, but her thumb pauses for just a second too long against the edge of my hand before she pulls back. Noted. She stretches then, arms lifting overhead, hoodie riding up again. I very deliberately look at the wall. This, I say crisply, is exactly why I requested a single. You wound me, Riley says lightly. I am trying to. She snorts. Unbelievable. I turn back toward my desk, already mentally reorganizing my morning schedule to account for the unexpected disruption. Behind me, I hear the soft rustle of fabric as Riley climbs out of bed. Then, hey, Ice Queen. I close my eyes briefly. Do not call me that. You didn't say stop calling you that. I pivot slowly in my chair. Riley is standing now, tugging her hair into a loose ponytail. Strands immediately escape, framing her face in soft, messy waves that look entirely too intentional for someone claiming they just rolled out of bed. It is implied, I say. She considers that, then shrugs. Noted and ignored. Of course. She turns toward the thermostat on the wall. I don't even realize what she's doing until, click, my head snaps up. The soft hum of the AC shifts. War. Riley, I say slowly. She freezes mid-step. Then, very carefully, she turns around. Her expression is innocent. Too innocent. Yes? What, I ask with deadly calm, did you just do? She glances at the thermostat, then back at me. Adjusted the temperature? My fingers curl slightly against my desk. You raised it 3 degrees. You noticed that instantly? That is not the point. She leans casually against the wall, crossing her arms. It was cold. It was optimal. It was Arctic. It was efficient. It was hostile. We stare at each other. The air between us tightens with something sharp and familiar. This, at least, I understand. Riley pushes off the wall and walks toward the thermostat again. Bold. Reckless. Possibly suicidal. I stand at the exact same time. We reach the wall together. Her hand lifts. So does mine. Our fingers collide lightly over the thermostat. And there it is again. That electric skin-to-skin awareness that hits like a live wire. We both freeze. Her hand is warm. Mine is very deliberately still. Slowly, Riley looks up at me. Her voice drops just a fraction. You planning to fight me for it? I meet her gaze evenly. If necessary. Her lips twitch, but something softer flickers underneath the teasing now. Less performance, more attention. Wow, she murmurs. You really don't like sharing, do you? Something in my chest tightens unexpectedly, because no, I don't. Not space, not control, not anything I worked this hard to build. My jaw sets. Move your hand. Her eyes search my face for a second longer than necessary. Then, slowly, she pulls back. Not defensive, not mocking, just yielding. Unexpected. I blink once. Riley steps away from the wall and lifts both hands in surrender. Okay, she says lightly. Thermostat dictatorship acknowledged. I narrow my eyes. You are mocking me. Only a little. But she doesn't touch the thermostat again.
And for some reason, that lands. The tension in my shoulders loosens by exactly half an inch. Before I can examine that too closely, Riley turns toward her desk and starts rummaging through her bag. Notebooks, pens, a worn-looking planner. Not color-coded. Barbaric. But my gaze catches on something else. A thin envelope slips partially out of the front pocket of her bag. The corner is creased, handled too many times. Across the top, in block letters, "Final Notice." My stomach tightens. Riley notices where I'm looking. Too late, her hand moves quickly, sliding the envelope back into the bag like it was never there. Too quick, too practiced. The sunshine dimples don't reach her eyes this time. "Well," she says brightly, a little too brightly, "what's on your terrifyingly structured agenda today, Hale?"
I don't answer right away, because something just shifted. Subtle, but unmistakable. I lean back slowly in my chair, studying her properly now. Not the chaos, not the pink suitcase. Her. "You're on financial aid," I say. It's not a question. Riley goes very still. Just for a second. Then she tilts her head, eyebrows lifting. "Wow," she says lightly. "Do you always profile people before breakfast?" I hold her gaze. You didn't deny it. Something flickers behind her eyes. Gone almost immediately, but I saw it. Interesting. Riley exhales slowly and rubs the back of her neck, fingers briefly catching in the loose strands of her ponytail. "Transfer scholarship," she says finally. "Why?" Her tone is casual. Too casual. I file that away. "You don't spend like someone careless," I say. Her mouth curves faintly. "High praise from the human spreadsheet." I ignore that. "But you act like someone who wants people to think you are," I finish. That lands. Her smile softens. Not gone, just different. Quieter. "You ever consider," Riley says gently, "that some people just don't like walking around looking miserable?" The words aren't defensive. They're honest. And for the first time since she dragged that pink monstrosity into my room, I hesitate. Because beneath the sunshine and the sarcasm and the relentless boundary violations, there is something else there. Something steadier. Something that looks suspiciously like choice. Riley Carter is not shallow. She is intentional. Well, that is significantly more inconvenient. She flashes me a small, crooked smile. "Relax, Ice Queen," she says softly. "I promise I'm not here to ruin your life." I meet her gaze. Cool, measured, entirely too aware of the way the air still feels slightly charged when she stands this close. That, I tell her calmly, remains to be seen. But as she turns back to her desk, humming quietly under her breath, I have the very uncomfortable realization that this roommate situation just became a lot more complicated than a thermostat war. And something tells me Riley Carter is hiding a lot more than she lets people see. I hesitate, because this is more than a donut. This is intention. "You're going to run out," I say quietly. She shrugs one shoulder. "I budgeted." My eyes flick to her. Really look this time. The worn edges of her backpack, the careful way she folded the receipt and tucked it into the side pocket earlier, the final notice envelope from this morning. Pieces click together. Slowly. "You're not exactly rolling in spare cash," I say. Riley's gaze meets mine. Steady, unbothered, still had enough to share. Something in my chest tightens unexpectedly, because she means it. There is no performance here, no angle, just quiet generosity from someone who clearly does not have excess to spare. That is inconveniently disarming. I pick up the sandwich, take a bite. Warm, savory. My body immediately stops plotting revenge against me. "Thank you," I say before I can overthink it. Riley smiles.
Soft, not teasing this time. You're welcome. Silence settles again, but it is different now. Looser. I sit back down slowly, sandwich in hand, and glance at her. You work? She asks gently. Yes. What do you do? I assist Professor Langley. Research support, grading, administrative work. Her eyebrows lift slightly. That explains the terrifying organization. I am efficient. You're intense, she corrects. I ignore that. She watches me for a moment longer, then says quietly, You don't seem like someone who gets to just relax. The words are careful, not probing, just offered. I stare at my sandwich for a second. Then, before I can talk myself out of it, my mother works 3 jobs. Riley stills. I keep my eyes on the desk. It's always been tight. Money, time, everything. The words come out more easily than I expect. Weird. I learned early that if I wanted options, I needed scholarships. If I wanted scholarships, I needed perfect grades. I pick at the edge of the sandwich wrapper. Small motion, unconscious. Overachieving is cheaper than therapy, I finish dryly. Riley does not laugh. She doesn't interrupt. She just leans back in her chair, listening. Actually listening. I get that, she says quietly. No pity, no judgment, just understanding. My chest does something strange. You do? I ask before I can stop myself. Her smile is small, a little sad around the edges. Bright side of the life, she says lightly. Remember? But her fingers twist slightly in the hem of her hoodie. Nervous tell. I notice. Of course I notice. You're deflecting, I say. Her eyes flick up to mine. Then she exhales slowly. Yeah, Riley admits. That is all she gives me. But somehow, it is enough. Because I recognize that look, that careful brightness, that deliberate decision to be okay when things are not. The realization settles quietly in my chest. I misjudged her. Not entirely, but enough to matter. I clear my throat softly. I was unnecessarily hostile yesterday. Riley blinks, then snorts. Unnecessarily hostile? Is that what we're calling it? My mouth tightens slightly. Yes. She studies me for a moment longer, then her expression softens in that warm, disarming way that is rapidly becoming a problem. You were stressed, she says simply. I walked into your space like a hurricane. I'd have been annoyed too. No scorekeeping, no guilt trip, just grace. Something in my chest loosens, unexpected, unfamiliar. Still, I say, I apologize. Riley smiles, bright again, but softer now. Accepted, Ice Queen. I exhale slowly and sit back in my chair, the last of the tension in my shoulders easing for the first time since she dragged that pink suitcase into my life. This feels different. Not war, not quite peace, something in between. And as Riley nudges the donut box a little closer to my side of the desk, like she thinks I might want another one later, I realize something quietly unsettling. I don't actually mind that she's here anymore, which is either progress or the beginning of a very complicated mistake. Probably both. Chapter 3. Tori. By 9:30 that night, I am running on caffeine, spite, and approximately 3 remaining functional brain cells. My laptop screen blurs for the 3rd time in as many minutes. I blink hard, refocus. The case law in front of me does not improve with repeated exposure. Shocking. I rub my thumb slowly over the edge of my eyebrow, pressing into the tension building there. My neck aches. My eyes burn. My stomach growls, loudly. I freeze. The sound echoes in the otherwise quiet room like a personal betrayal. Fantastic. I glance at the clock.
9:32 p.m. I skipped dinner again. Not unusual, just inconvenient when my body decides to unionize about it. I reach absently for my water bottle instead, taking a slow sip and pretending hydration is a personality substitute for actual food. It is not. My stomach growls again. Rude. I straighten slightly in my chair, forcing my focus back to the screen. I have exactly 3 more pages to outline before I allow myself to stop. 3. Manageable. I type another sentence, delete it, type it again, delete it again. From the hallway outside comes the sound of footsteps. Then the door opens, and Riley Carter walks in smelling like powdered sugar and poor decision-making. My head lifts before I can stop it. The scent hits first. Warm, sweet, fresh. My traitorous stomach makes a third, deeply humiliating noise. Riley pauses just inside the doorway. The plastic bag in her hand crinkles softly as she shifts her grip. Her eyes slide to me, then to my desk, then, very slowly, back to my face. There's a beat of silence. Her mouth twitches. "You good over there, Ice Queen?" I straighten immediately. I am fine. My voice is crisp, professional, entirely betrayed by the fact that my gaze has locked onto the bag in her hand like it personally insulted my nutritional deficiencies. Riley's smile grows. Not smug, just knowing. She kicks the door shut behind her and walks into the room, setting her bag down on her desk. The top crinkles open slightly and the smell intensifies. Donuts. I can identify the scent with disturbing accuracy. There's also something savory, possibly breakfast sandwiches. My stomach makes a noise that should legally qualify as treason. Riley definitely hears that one. Her eyebrows lift slowly. "You want some?" she asks casually. The answer is immediately yes, violently yes, embarrassingly yes. I sit back slightly in my chair instead. No. Riley pauses, studies me. Then she pushes her hair back behind her ear slowly, eyes narrowing just a fraction, like she's recalibrating her approach. "You sure?" I do not accept pity food. Her mouth opens, closes, then she huffs a quiet laugh under her breath. That is the most dramatic way anyone has ever refused a donut. I am not being dramatic. She doesn't push, doesn't tease. Instead, she reaches into the bag and pulls out a small white box, flipping the lid open. The smell hits the room properly this time. My stomach clenches hard enough to be noticeable. Riley pretends not to notice, which somehow makes it worse. "There are 6, she says lightly, setting the box on the edge of her desk. "I physically cannot eat 6. I say nothing. She glances at me sideways, then adds softer, "And you don't owe me anything." That lands. My fingers pause on the keyboard. I don't look at her. "You don't know that." "I do," Riley says simply. Silence stretches between us. Not tense, not sharp like it usually is, just quiet, careful. I glance at the box. Just once. Riley absolutely sees it. But she doesn't smile, doesn't comment. She just leans back against her desk, arms loosely crossed, giving me space like she understands this is some kind of weird pride standoff happening entirely inside my head. Annoyingly perceptive. "You're not going to make it weird," I say finally. Her expression softens slightly. Scout's honor. "You do not seem like you were a scout." "I was not," she admits, but the sentiment stands. Another pause. My stomach makes one final, deeply persuasive argument. I exhale slowly through my nose. Then I stand. Walk over, take exactly 1 donut, because we have limits. Riley watches the whole process with quiet interest, but she keeps her mouth shut. Smart. I take a careful bite. And, oh, that is... I close my eyes briefly before I can stop myself. Warm. Soft. Ridiculously good. When I open them again, Riley is very deliberately looking at the wall, like she did not just witness me have a spiritual experience with fried dough. Good? She asks mildly. I swallow. It is acceptable. Her lips twitch, but she lets me have my dignity, which I note, carefully. I finish the donut slower than I intend to, because I am tired and hungry, and for the first time all day, my shoulders loosen a fraction. Riley reaches back into the bag and pulls out a wrapped sandwich, setting it on the desk between us. You should eat actual food, too.
I do not get jealous. I would like that entered into the official record. I do not get jealous, territorial, irrational, or emotionally compromised over people I have known for approximately 72 hours and one shared box of donuts. This is a fact, a well-established personality trait, a pillar of my otherwise highly functional existence, which is why I am absolutely not staring across the student union like someone just personally insulted my bloodline. I am observing, calmly, academically, with absolutely no emotional investment whatsoever. Riley is sitting 3 tables away. She is laughing. That is the first problem. The second problem is the girl leaning too casually into her space. Tall, blonde, familiar in the vague way of someone who probably floats through group projects and leaves everyone else to do the actual work. Her hand rests lightly on Riley's shoulder, like it belongs there, like she has done it before. Something sharp twists low in my chest. I ignore it, professionally. Riley says something I can't quite hear, her mouth curving into that warm, easy smile that I have become inconveniently familiar with over the past 2 days. The blonde laughs. Her fingers squeeze Riley's shoulder once. My pen presses a little too hard into my notebook. The tip snaps. Ink dots the margin. Fantastic. I stare down at the page like it personally offended me. I am not jealous. I am aware. That is the word. Aware that Riley Carter has rainbow-patterned everything. Rainbow keychain, rainbow sticker on her laptop, and, as of this morning, a neatly pinned pride poster on her side of the dorm wall that she put up with careful precision, like it mattered to her where it sat. I didn't mind. Of course I didn't mind. I'm gay. Openly, proudly. Just privately. Not something I broadcast between debate practice and scholarship applications. But the point remains. I am not reacting to the fact that another woman is touching my roommate. I am simply... My gaze flicks back up, despite myself. The blonde says something close to Riley's ear. Riley tips her head back and laughs again. Soft, bright, unfiltered. The sound lands somewhere directly under my ribs. This is extremely inconvenient, because the realization creeps in slowly and with deeply irritating clarity. I like her. Not just tolerate, not just roommate-level neutral. I like Riley Carter. I like the way she doesn't flinch when I'm sharp. I like the way she listens like what I'm saying actually matters. I stop that thought immediately. Across the room, the blonde finally straightens. Her hand slides off Riley's shoulder. Relief moves through me so quickly it's almost embarrassing. They exchange a few more words, and then the girl waves and disappears into the crowd. Riley watches her go for a second before turning back to her laptop. I am already standing before I consciously decide to move. Fantastic. Impulse control is clearly on vacation today. I cross the room with measured steps, stopping just beside her table. Riley looks up. Her eyebrows lift slightly. Well, she says, if it isn't my favorite thermostat dictator.
I am your only thermostat dictator. Details. Her gaze flicks briefly to the seat across from her, then back to my face. Curious. Warm. Too perceptive. "What's up?" she asks. For half a second, half a dangerous second, I consider retreating, because I am not entirely sure what I'm doing, or why my chest still feels tight from watching someone else touch her. Unacceptable. I straighten slightly. Professional mode. "I am hosting a study session tonight," I say. Riley blinks. "You are?" "Yes." "For fun?" I stare at her. She grins. "Sorry," she says. "Continue." I ignore that. "I am repaying you for the food. You ate one donut and half your sandwich. You offered. You still provided resources." She studies me for a long moment, long enough that my skin starts to feel too tight again. God, she notices everything. "You're being weirdly nice," Riley says. "I am being efficient. That is not the same thing." I hold her gaze, steady, controlled, entirely not thinking about how close the blonde was standing earlier. Entirely. "Are you going to accept the help or continue profiling my personality?" Her lips twitch. Then, slowly, she smiles. Soft, pleased, like she just won something. "Yeah," Riley says. "I'll come." Something warm settles unexpectedly in my chest. Strange, unfamiliar, not unwelcome. "Good," I say, already turning away before I can overanalyze that reaction. Behind me, I hear her mutter quietly, "Wow, I feel like I just unlocked a secret level." I absolutely pretend I did not hear that. Later that night, the room is quiet. I have laid out exactly what is needed for a productive study session. Notebooks, highlighters, practice sheets, and, because I am apparently experiencing personality drift, snacks. Riley stops in the doorway, stares, then slowly looks at me. "Did you just bribe me with food?" It is not a bribe. There are color-coordinated sticky notes. That is unrelated. She walks in slowly, dropping onto the chair beside mine. Too close. Definitely too close. Her shoulder brushes mine lightly as she settles. The contact sends a sharp spark up my arm. I ignore it. Professionally. "Okay," Riley says, pulling her notebook closer. "Teach me your terrifying ways." I lean in slightly, pointing to the first problem set. "This section is where most people lose points," I explain. Our shoulders brush again. Neither of us moves away this time. Interesting. I keep talking, keep explaining, keep very deliberately not noticing the way Riley has gone unusually quiet beside me. "So if you restructure the equation here, Tori." My pen pauses. I turn slightly. She's closer than I expected. Her eyes are on my mouth. Warm, focused, entirely too intent. "What?" I ask carefully. Riley blinks once, like she just caught herself. Then, very softly, "You have really nice lips." The words land between us like a dropped match. My pulse spikes, sharp, immediate. For one suspended second, neither of us moves. Her gaze flicks up to mine, questioning, not pulling away, not joking. Something inside my chest tips forward, decision made before logic can catch up. I close the distance and kiss her. Her breath catches sharply against my mouth. Then, she kisses me back. Warm, soft, surprised but not retreating. My hand tightens slightly against the edge of the desk. Her shoulder presses more firmly into mine.
The world narrows. Just this. Just her. Just the quiet, electric realization that I am in serious, serious trouble. When we finally pull apart, the air between us is tight and charged and completely different than it was 5 minutes ago. Riley stares at me, wide-eyed, breath uneven. "Well," she says faintly. I swallow once, steadying, composed on the outside. Internally, absolute chaos. "Yes," I say quietly. And for the first time since Riley Carter rolled that aggressively pink suitcase into my life, I am no longer entirely sure I am the one in control here.
Chapter 5. Riley. In my defense, I panicked. That feels like important context, because when Tori Hale kisses you, your brain does not exactly remain a calm and rational place. It becomes more like a shaken snow globe of bad decisions and short-circuited survival instincts, which is how, immediately after one of the most unexpectedly perfect kisses of my life, I opened my mouth and said, "Well, I guess I earned that." I would like to formally apologize to every romantic instinct I have ever possessed, because the second the words left my mouth, Tori shut down. Not dramatically, not loudly, just quiet, controlled. Worse, her shoulders went tight, her expression smoothed into that cool, careful mask she wears when she's locking every single feeling she has ever had into a vault and throwing away the key. And just like that, study session over. Tori Hale emotionally evacuated, me standing there like I just tripped over my own personality. Fantastic. 3 days later. The department party is loud. Too crowded, too full of people I do not know and do not particularly want to know, which is saying something because I am usually the human equivalent of a golden retriever at social events. But tonight, my attention keeps snagging on one very specific, very frustrating person across the room. Tori stands near the edge of the refreshment table, posture straight, expression composed, looking like she is physically manifesting the phrase, "I regret attending." She hasn't looked at me once. Not once, which would be impressive if I didn't know for a fact that she notices everything, including me, especially me. I shift my weight from one foot to the other, fiddling with the edge of my cup. Around me, clusters of students laugh too loudly and talk too fast about internships and midterms, and professors who assign emotional damage in syllabus form. Normally, I would have inserted myself into at least one of these conversations by now, but my brain is busy replaying the exact moment Tori went quiet. The way her mouth pressed into a thin line, the way her eyes stopped giving anything away. God, I messed this up. I scrub a hand over the back of my neck and risk another glance across the room. She's still there, still alone, still pretending she absolutely chose to stand in the corner instead of just not knowing anyone else here. The realization lands with quiet certainty. She's avoiding me. And the worst part? I think it's my fault. My chest tightens. Because beneath the Ice Queen thing, beneath the terrifying organizational habits and the academic warlord energy, Tori Hale is careful, precise, not someone who does things without meaning them, which means the kiss mattered, and I treated it like a punchline. "Okay," I mutter under my breath. "Enough." I straighten my shoulders, take one steadying breath, and start walking. Tori notices me when I'm still 3 steps away. Of course she does. Her spine goes subtly straighter, her fingers tighten slightly around the edge of her cup, but she doesn't retreat. Progress. I stop beside her, close enough that our shoulders almost brush, but not quite. The air between us immediately feels tighter, familiar, charged. "Hey," I say gently. Her gaze slides to me. Cool, controlled, entirely too careful. Hello, Riley. Yeah, okay. We're definitely still in the emotional fallout zone. I shift my weight slightly and tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear, buying myself half a second to not say something catastrophically stupid. Growth. I think, I say slowly, we should probably talk. Tori inhales once, measured. About. Straight to business. Of course. I huff a small breath. About the fact that you've been acting like I personally committed academic fraud in your presence for the last 3 days. Her mouth tightens. Not amused, not dismissive either, just tense. I have been busy. I raise one eyebrow. She exhales slowly. That is not entirely accurate. Points for honesty. I soften slightly. Look, I say gentler now. If I offended you the other night, I'm sorry. That gets her attention. Her gaze sharpens on my face. I panicked, I cut in quietly. And I made a joke because that's my go-to defense mechanism when my brain short-circuits. Silence stretches between us. Tori is watching me very carefully now. I swallow once, then decide to just go for it. Terrifying. But, I add, softer, for the record, I liked the kiss. Her breath catches. Small, but I hear it. Encouraged, I press on. And, I say, voice warm but steady, I wouldn't mind doing it again if you wanted to. There's a very long pause. Tori stares at me like I just knocked her internal filing system slightly out of alignment. Tori? She says faintly. I lift one shoulder in a small shrug. Look, the enemies to lovers tension is fun and all, but I feel like we could maybe try the radical concept of communicating like emotionally functional humans. Her lips part slightly, then close. Then she actually gasps. Not dramatically, just surprised. I did it without thinking, Tori says suddenly. The words come out quick, unfiltered. Her eyes widen slightly like she did not mean to say that out loud. Then she exhales and rubs her thumb briefly over her eyebrow, tension bleeding through the small gesture. But, she continues more quietly, that does not mean it was accidental. My heart does a weird little flip. Okay, we're making progress. Tori meets my gaze fully now, and for once, she doesn't look guarded. She looks honest. I have been aware of you, she says carefully. I grin a little. Wow, high praise. Her mouth almost twitches. Almost. Because I realized you were not shallow or a Pollyanna. I feel so seen. Tori, sorry, continue. Her eyes soften just a fraction. I have been attracted to you, she admits quietly. Oh, wow. Okay, that one lands directly in my bloodstream, because Tori Hale does not strike me as someone who throws words like that lightly. I step a tiny bit closer without thinking. She doesn't move away. Good sign. So, I say gently, what do we do with that information? Tori looks at me for a long moment, long enough that the noise of the party fades into background static. Then, carefully, tentatively, should we leave? She says, like the words are new and slightly dangerous, and go on a date? My eyebrows shoot up, because, wow, did not expect the Ice Queen to go full initiative mode tonight. But also, I'm absolutely not complaining. A slow smile spreads across my face. Yeah, I say softly. Yeah, I think we should. For half a second, Tori just stares at me. Then she nods once, sharp, decisive. That sounds acceptable.
Chapter 6. Tori. Holding Riley Carter's hand is distracting. That is the first official observation of the evening. The second is that she fits. Her fingers slide easily between mine, like they have done this before. Like this is not the first time we have walked side by side across campus, under the soft glow of lampposts and the low hum of late-night students drifting between buildings. It is, objectively, our first date, which is new territory. I do not do spontaneous. I do not do emotionally impulsive decisions made in the middle of department parties. And yet,
Here I am, walking across the quad at 10:30 at night, hand in hand with my former enemy roommate, while my carefully scheduled evening study block sits abandoned on my desk. Unprecedented behavior. Tori swings our joined hands slightly between us, her steps easy and loose, like she is not overanalyzing every single micro-decision happening in real time. Must be nice. "You're thinking too loud," she says. I glance at her. "I am not thinking loudly." "You absolutely are." She bumps her shoulder lightly against me, smiling sideways at me. "Your face does this little spreadsheet loading thing." I narrow my eyes. That is not a documented facial expression. It is now. Despite myself, my mouth almost twitches. I smooth it out immediately. Professional composure. Always. We walk in comfortable silence for a few steps, gravel crunching softly under our shoes. The campus is quieter this late, the usual daytime chaos replaced with soft conversations drifting from distant benches and the occasional burst of laughter from passing groups. Riley slows slightly as we reach the edge of the fountainhead. "You want to sit?" she asks. I hesitate for approximately half a second, then nod. Yes. Growth. We settle onto the low stone edge of the fountain, our hands still loosely linked between us. The water trickles quietly nearby, catching the warm glow of the lights above. For a moment, neither of us speaks. Not awkward, just careful. Riley finally exhales softly. "So," she says, tilting her head toward me, "what does terrifying overachiever Tori Hale actually want to do with her life?" "Law school," I say. She nods immediately, like that tracks. "Yeah," she says, "you've got big, I will destroy you in court with color-coded evidence energy." That is the goal. Her grin flashes, then softens. "What kind of law?" I pause, because that answer matters. "Civil rights," I say quietly, "or education access, something structural." Riley goes very still beside me. "Structural," she repeats softly. I nod once. "My mother works 3 jobs, none of which came with health insurance or schedule stability, and she still got told she was lucky to have the work." The familiar tightness creeps into my chest. I ignore it, mostly. I watched her get priced out of opportunity over and over again. Forms, fees, systems designed to exhaust people until they stop asking for help. Riley's thumb shifts slightly against the back of my hand, not interrupting, just grounding. It is deeply distracting. "So," I finished quietly, "I decided I would rather be the person writing the arguments than the one filling out the paperwork." Silence settles for a beat. Then Riley says, very softly, "That makes so much sense." No pity, no surprise, just understanding. My chest does something uncomfortable and warm at the same time. I clear my throat slightly. "What about you?" Riley leans back on her palms, gaze drifting up toward the dark sky. "I want to write," she says. Simple, certain. I glance at her. "You are a creative writing major." "Yep." "That is statistically unstable career planning." She snorts. "Wow, way to romanticize my dreams, Hale." "I'm being realistic." "I know." Her smile softens. "You always are." She pulls one knee up slightly, resting her chin on it. "I want to write stories that make people feel less alone," she says quietly. That lands harder than expected. I study her profile in the soft light. "You seem optimistic?" I say carefully. Her mouth curves faintly. "Strategically optimistic." I raise one eyebrow. She exhales slowly. "My house growing up was..." She hesitates, fingers fidgeting lightly against her knee. "Loud." The word is doing heavy lifting. I wait. You ever live somewhere where it felt like everyone was always one bad day away from yelling? My stomach tightens. Yes, I say quietly. Her eyes flick to mine briefly. Understanding passes between us, clean, immediate. Yeah, Riley says softly. That. She traces an invisible line along the stone beside her. So I figured out pretty early that I couldn't fix the chaos, but I could control what I added to it. My grip on her hand tightens slightly before I can stop myself. She notices. Of course she does. So, she says with a small shoulder, you know, when I first met you, I thought you were going to hate me forever. I considered it. She laughs quietly. But you don't now, she presses. I look at her fully. Honest. Careful. No, I admit. Her expression shifts, just slightly. Something pleased and surprised flickers there. Good, she says softly. Our hands are still linked. Neither of us has let go, and for once, I don't feel the need to. Riley glances down at our joined fingers, then back up at me. Are you okay with this? She asks quietly. The question is gentle, respectful, like she will pull away the second I say the word. The fact that she asks, that she always asks without making it feel like pressure, something in me softens further. I am, I say. Her smile blooms slow and warm. God, that expression is becoming a problem. We sit there a while longer talking about smaller things after that. Her favorite books, my worst professor, the fact that she cannot, under any circumstances, be trusted with Plant House. By the time we finally stand to walk back towards the dorms, the air between us feels different. When our shoulders brush this time, neither of us startles. When our hands swing slightly between us again, it feels easy. And somewhere between the fountain and the dorm entrance, a quiet realization settles in my chest. This thing between us is no longer just tension. It is no longer just curiosity. It is becoming something softer.
Chapter 7. Tori. Dating Riley Carter is alarmingly easy. That is the problem. Because nothing in my life has ever been easy in a way that didn't eventually demand repayment with interest. But somehow, over the next week, things between us slide into a rhythm that feels natural in a way that unsettles me. We study together. We walk to class together. We share food more often than I initially planned to allow. And somewhere in between all of that, Riley keeps doing these small, impossible things that disarm me completely. Like noticing when I skip lunch and placing half her sandwich on my desk without comment. Or nudging her foot lightly against mine under the library table when she senses I'm spiraling about an upcoming exam. Or listening. Really listening. Most people hear the surface version of what I say. Riley hears the things underneath. Which is dangerous, because it makes me feel known, and being known has historically come with consequences. Still, tonight feels safe. We're in the campus library, tucked into one of the quiet back corners where the fluorescent lighting is softer and the late-night crowd has thinned to a handful of exhausted students. My laptop glows faintly in front of me. Riley's notebook is open beside it, covered in messy annotations and doodles that look suspiciously like tiny suns and smiling coffee cups. I pretend not to notice those. Tori. I glance up. Riley is watching me again. She does that a lot, like she's cataloging me the same way I catalog everyone else. Yes? You're reading the same paragraph 4 times. I am reviewing it. You're stress reading. I am not stress reading. Her mouth curves. You do this thing with your eyebrows when you're stress reading. That is not a scientifically verified observation. She leans back in her chair slightly, folding her arms with quiet satisfaction.
I've been observing the Ice Queen in her natural habitat for 2 weeks. My research is solid. Despite myself, my lips twitch. I look back at the screen, then close the laptop. Fine, I say. Victory flashes across Riley's face like sunlight. You admit defeat? I am taking a strategic break. That is what defeat sounds like. I slide my chair back slightly, stretching my arms above my head. Across the table, Riley watches the movement with the same quiet focus that keeps making my pulse do inconvenient things. You know, she says thoughtfully, when we first met, I thought you were going to throw me out the window. That option remains available. Wow, she says delighted. Growth. Before I can respond, someone approaches our table. I recognize the voice before I look up. Hey, Tori. Professor Langley's teaching assistant, Julia. Tall, sharp, confident. She leans casually at the edge of the table like she belongs there, which, academically speaking, she probably does. Tori, she says, smiling slightly, Langley mentioned you've been helping organize the case summaries. I have. Her hand lands lightly on my shoulder. Friendly, professional, brief. But the contact makes Riley go very still across the table. I notice. Immediately. Interesting. You're doing excellent work, Julia continues. If you're considering law school applications, I'd be happy to write a recommendation. That would be appreciated, I say. Her smile lingers another second, then she straightens. Good night, Tori. Good night. She leaves. Silence settles over the table. Slowly, I look back at Riley. Her pen is spinning slowly between her fingers. Her expression is neutral. Too neutral. You're glaring, I observe. I'm not glaring. You are absolutely glaring. I exhale through my nose. Okay, she admits, maybe a little. My eyebrow lifts. Why? Riley pauses, then mutters quietly. She touched you. Ah. I lean back slightly in my chair, studying her. You are jealous. Her head snaps up. I am not jealous. You are. I'm observant. You were glaring. I was evaluating the situation. I almost laugh. Almost. Because this is familiar territory. The emotional math of noticing someone you care about existing near someone else. Riley shifts in her chair, looking mildly embarrassed now. Okay, maybe I didn't love that, she admits. Something warm spreads through my chest, because the realization lands suddenly and clearly. She cares. Enough to react. Enough to get territorial. Which means this thing between us is no longer theoretical. I lean forward slightly, lowering my voice. Tori, her gaze lifts cautiously. I am not interested in Julia. Her shoulders loosen a fraction. I figured, she says quickly, but, I continue calmly, I am interested in you. Her pen stops spinning. Just like that. The air between us tightens. Warmer now. Heavier. You are? She says softly. Yes. She studies my face like she's checking for sarcasm. There isn't any. Slowly, Riley's mouth curves, that soft, bright smile that keeps sneaking under my defenses. Well, she says gently, that's good. Is it? Yeah. She leans forward slightly, close enough that our knees brush under the table. Neither of us pulls back. Because, Riley adds quietly, I'm very interested in you, too. Something shifts between us. Not explosive, not dramatic, just certain.
Being in love with Tori Hale feels like discovering a secret room in a house you thought you knew completely. At first, when she kissed me that night during our study session, everything about her felt sharp and intimidating and a little dangerous in the way thunderstorms feel dangerous when you are standing under an open sky. I remember thinking that she was brilliant and intimidating and maybe a little terrifying, and I remember wondering if she would ever let someone see the softer parts of her life that existed underneath the discipline and the color-coded schedules. Now, a few weeks later, I know that softness exists. I see it in small ways that most people would probably miss. I see it in the way she automatically shifts closer when we sit in the library, like my presence has become part of the routine she depends on. I see it when she pushes half her lunch across the table because she knows I forget to eat when I am writing. I see it in the way she quietly reorganizes my notes when I fall asleep over my laptop so that everything will make sense when I wake up again. And I feel it most in the mornings. Mornings have become my favorite time of day. The first few weeks after we started dating, I discovered something delightful about Tori Hale that very few people on this campus probably know. She is incredibly soft before 8 in the morning. Not in the way that she suddenly stops being precise or organized, because Tori would probably reorganize the apocalypse if given the opportunity, but in the way her eyes are slower to sharpen when she first wakes up, and the way she lets herself linger in the quiet space between sleep and responsibility. This morning is no different. The sun is just beginning to stretch through the thin curtains of our dorm room, painting everything in that pale golden light that makes early mornings feel like the world has not quite started moving yet. Tori is standing beside her desk, halfway through packing her bag for class, her dark hair still slightly messy from sleep. I walk up behind her and slide my arms around her waist. "You're leaving already?" I ask, pressing my cheek lightly against the back of her shoulder. She pauses in the middle of placing a notebook into her bag. "Yes," she says, her voice calm and practical even though I can feel the warmth of her body through my arms. 17 minutes is plenty of time. "For what?" she asks, although the tone of her voice tells me she already knows the answer. Instead of explaining, I kiss her. The first kiss lands against the corner of her jaw, warm and slow, and I feel the way her breath changes slightly in response. She tilts her head a little toward me, as if her body has already decided it likes the direction this morning is going. "You are a distraction," she tells me after I finally pull back. "That sounds like a compliment," I say, smiling. It was not intended as one. I steal another quick kiss anyway before grabbing my backpack. Tori watches me with that careful look she gets when she is pretending not to enjoy something that she is very clearly enjoying. Dating her has become my favorite unexpected plot twist. The strange thing is that being with her makes everything in my life feel brighter. My grades have improved in ways that surprise me. Statistics, which once felt like a language designed specifically to make me cry into my textbooks, has become something I can actually understand when Tori sits beside me, explaining the logic behind it with that quiet, intense focus she brings to everything she does. But the real difference is not just academic, it is emotional. When we sit together in the library, when we share late-night sandwiches or wander across campus talking about books and politics and the shape of the world we want to build someday, I feel something inside me relax in a way it has never quite managed before. Tori makes me feel steady. She makes me feel like the future is something we can plan instead of something we have to survive. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, without either of us saying the words yet, I realized that I am completely and utterly in love with her. The only problem is that I don't know if she feels the same way. Tori is affectionate and attentive and quietly protective in ways that make my heart do embarrassing little gymnastics in my chest. But she is also careful with emotions, in the way people are careful with fragile things they don't trust themselves to hold. Which is why today hurts a little more than I expected. Today is my birthday. I did not make a big deal about it. Birthdays in my family were always unpredictable, depending entirely on whether the adults in the house were having a good week or a bad one. So somewhere along the line, I stopped expecting them to matter. Still, I told Tori about it once, just casually. And when the day starts and she doesn't mention it, I tell myself it's not a big deal. I tell myself she's busy and that she has 100 responsibilities in her head at any given moment. But as the day stretches through classes and lectures and group discussions, a quiet disappointment settles in my chest that I can't quite shake. By the time my last class ends, I'm exhausted. When I walk back toward the dorm, I am mostly thinking about crawling into bed with my laptop and pretending that birthdays are just normal Tuesdays with slightly more emotional baggage. The hallway is quiet when I reach our door. I push it open, and then I stop. The room is completely transformed. Colorful streamers hang along the walls, looping between the shelves and the window frame, and a bright banner stretches across the far wall with cheerful, uneven letters spelling out "Happy Birthday." For a moment, I simply stand there, trying to process the scene. Then I notice the cake, chocolate with thick frosting and slightly crooked lettering, and standing beside it, looking mildly self-conscious but very determined, is Tori. My heart immediately climbs into my throat. "You remembered," I say, my voice barely above a whisper. She crosses her arms in that familiar, composed way that usually means she is pretending not to care about something she cares about very much. "Of course I remembered," she says. "I am not such a terrible girlfriend that I would forget your birthday." The word girlfriend sends a little thrill down my spine. I drop my bag on the floor and rush across the room before I can think better of it, wrapping my arms around her in a tight hug. "I thought you forgot," I admit against her shoulder. She exhales softly and wraps her arms around me in return. That was the intention. I wanted it to be a surprise. When I pull back, my eyes feel suspiciously bright. "You decorated the whole room," I say, glancing around again. "You even got the right cake." "I pay attention," she replies. "You really do." There is food spread across the desk, too, little boxes and bags from the cafe near campus, and suddenly the entire scene feels so thoughtful and intentional that my chest aches with happiness. "You didn't have to do all this," I say. "I wanted to." Her voice is simple and sincere, and the warmth in it makes something in my chest loosen. For a moment, we just stand there, looking at each other in the middle of the decorated room. "I feel incredibly lucky right now," I tell her quietly. Her eyebrows lift slightly. "Lucky?" "Yes," I say, taking her hand again. "You make everything feel brighter. I did not expect college to come with someone who understands me this much." Tori studies my face for a moment with an expression I cannot quite read. Then she reaches up and gently touches my cheek. "Riley," she says. The seriousness in her voice makes my heart stutter. "I love you." The words settle between us like something fragile and luminous. For a second, I just stare at her, because hearing Tori Hale say something that vulnerable feels like watching a locked door quietly swing open. "I did not expect to feel this way about anyone," she continues softly. "But being with you has been the best part of my life here." A laugh escapes me, half shocked and half overwhelmed. "I have been in love with you for weeks," I confess. She blinks. "You could have informed me sooner." "That is fair," she admits. I cup her face gently in both hands. "I love you too," I say. Then I kiss her. The kiss is warm and slow and certain, and somewhere behind us the birthday cake waits patiently while we stand in the middle of the room she decorated for me, holding each other like this moment matters more than anything else in the world.
Epilogue, 2 years later. Graduation ceremonies are, objectively speaking, inefficient. They involve excessive waiting, uncomfortable folding chairs, and a great deal of clapping for people whose academic performance I have personally observed and would not necessarily classify as applause-worthy. And yet, today feels different. The quad is packed with students in black robes and square caps, the air buzzing with that strange mixture of relief and anticipation that only exists on days when an entire chapter of life ends at once. Families cluster along the edges of the lawn holding cameras and flowers, professors mill around shaking hands, and somewhere behind the stage, a speaker is delivering an unnecessarily long speech about the future. I am not listening, because Riley Carter is sitting beside me.
Her cap is crooked, her tassel is tangled in her hair, and she looks so completely incandescently happy that it is almost distracting. "You're staring," she whispers out of the corner of her mouth. "I am observing. That's staring with academic branding. I am proud of you." Her smile softens instantly. "You're proud of me," she repeats quietly, like the words mean more than I intended them to. "I am. And I am." 2 years ago, Riley struggled through statistics and nearly set her calculator on fire during finals week. Now she is graduating with honors in creative writing and a small but growing collection of published essays that professors keep mentioning with suspicious levels of admiration. Progress. Beside me, Riley bumps her shoulder lightly against mine. "You realize we survived being roommates," she says. "That was statistically unlikely. You brought a pink suitcase. That suitcase had character. That suitcase was a cry for help." She laughs under her breath. God, I love that sound. The realization is not new anymore. It has lived quietly in my chest for 2 years now, steady and certain. But today, something else sits beside it: uncertainty. Because in 3 months, I will be moving across the country. Law school, the one I dreamed about since I was 17, and filling out scholarship forms at the kitchen table while my mother worked night shifts. I got in. Top choice. Full scholarship. Objectively speaking, it is everything I worked for. And yet, I glance sideways at Riley. She has been careful lately. Thoughtful. There have been phone calls she takes outside the room, emails she closes when I walk past, plans she avoids discussing, and every time I try to ask, she smiles and says, "I'm figuring things out," which leaves me with one persistent, unwelcome question. Where does that leave us? The ceremony finally ends. Caps fly into the air like a flock of poorly coordinated birds. Students cheer. Someone nearby starts crying. Riley grabs my hand before I can process what is happening. "We did it," she says, breathless. "Yes," I reply. She pulls me into a hug so sudden and enthusiastic that my cap nearly falls off. "We graduated," she laughs into my shoulder. "We did." I hold her there for a second longer than necessary, because part of me already misses this moment. Campus, routine, the quiet certainty that Riley is always 2 steps away. When we finally pull apart, her expression shifts slightly, still warm, but more serious. "Tori," she says. "Yes, I want us to stay together." The words land directly in my chest. Even though I knew this conversation was coming, hearing it out loud still feels like stepping onto uncertain ground. "Even if it has to be long distance," she continues quickly, "I don't want this to end just because we're moving into different parts of our lives." Her voice softens. "I love you," Riley says. "I don't want to let you go." Something tightens painfully in my chest, because the truth is, I don't want to let her go either. Not now. Not ever. I lift my hands and cup her face gently. Her eyes search mine, anxious in a way I rarely see. "Tori," I say softly. Then I kiss her. Slow, certain. The kind of kiss that carries 2 years of late-night studying and shared sandwiches and quiet mornings wrapped in blankets. When we pull apart, she looks slightly dazed. "I love you too," I tell her. Relief sludds across her face so quickly it almost makes me laugh. "But," I add carefully, "there is still the matter of geography." Her smile grows suddenly, suspiciously. "That might not be as big of a problem as you think." My eyebrow lifts. "What does that mean?" She takes my hands. "I got a job," Riley says. The words come out with barely contained excitement. "In the same city where your law school is."
For a second, my brain refuses to process this sentence. "You what?" "I applied months ago," she says quickly, "for a junior editorial position at a publishing house there. I didn't want to tell you because I didn't know if I'd get it, and I didn't want to disappoint you if it didn't work out." My heart is now beating at an objectively unreasonable pace. I got the offer last week, she continues. I signed the contract yesterday. I stare at her. You are moving to the same city. Yes, you have known this for a week. I wanted to surprise you, she admits sheepishly. I inhale slowly, exhale, then laugh. Actually laugh. You are unbelievable. I thought you might say that. Her eyes sparkle now. And since we're both going to be there, she hesitates, clearly enjoying the suspense, we should probably start looking for an apartment. The words settle slowly into place. Together? Apartment? Same city? Same life? Riley giggles suddenly. You know what this means? What? We're going to be roommates again. My mouth twitches. Apparently, we are destined for eternal roommate status. She grins. I guess we're meant to be. I shake my head slightly. You are the only roommate I can tolerate. I feel honored. Being roommates for life, I add thoughtfully, does not sound terrible. Riley's smile softens. Hope flickers quietly between us. The future stretches out in front of us now. Uncertain in all the ways life always is, but suddenly it does not feel like something we have to face alone. She slips her hand into mine again. Warm, familiar, right. I love you, she says. I love you too. And standing there in the middle of the graduation crowd, surrounded by laughter and celebration and the beginning of everything that comes next, I realize something simple and extraordinary. For once in my meticulously planned life, the future is not something I have to control. It is something I get to build with her. Thank you for listening to this story. Hope you enjoyed it. You can check out other books by Sasha Clinton, available on Amazon under the pen name Sasha Clinton. Also, check out my channel for more free lesbian romance audiobooks.